Hey. Ooh,
Hello.
you look all dreamy.
I know. Let me just kind of push that back.
You've got your dreamy filter set to like full maximum dream mode.
Woo! Yes.
I don't know how to put a filter on mine. I'll have to work on that.
This isn't a filter. This is just the way the light's shining.
This is just me. No filter. Hashtag no filter.
Yeah. I have no clue how to do the filters. I know how to do some of them on Zoom, but yes, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't need it. We're good.
Woo!
Yes. Okay, well, there's people coming
Thanks for
on.
getting us here on time, 3.
I know.
You did it.
Yes, we've got a handful of people. I didn't really announce our topic. I'll let you do that. We can wait till a few more people jump in. But yeah, we're here.
Yes, as a way to get started, I would first like to say happy birthday to Oksana, our social media manager, who is amazing and has revolutionized our social media over the past year. For those of you who haven't noticed, it's had a different look recently. So happy birthday, Oksana.
We were drowning before Oksana.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's great.
She's the best.
Yes.
So. All right. Yeah, let's get rolling. Might as well.
Yes. Do you want to announce our topic?
Oh.
Hello?
I thought you were going to do it.
No.
No.
I already forgot some of the Claire's. Like, I know them, but then I forget when I go to list them, so I get nervous.
All right. So our topic for today is the 6 modes of intuitive sensing. We're basically talking about the various clairs. If you will, at least the way I like to define it, intuition kind of goes under the whole bubble of all of the, or encompasses the whole bubble of all the various clairs that one is gifted with when they take a human body in a lifetime. And so we have the claircognizance, where you just know things off the top of your head. Some of these phrases are a lot more psychic than people admit to. Oh, I just knew that off the top of my head, right? So that's called claircognizance. And then you have your clairvoyance, which is all about developing your third eye and seeing energy, being clear seeing, and being able to see the world around you with clarity, physically and energetically. And then you have your clairaudience, which has to do with your ability to hear energy or hear entities or hear things beyond what your physical ears can hear. And then we have the what I call this clairsmeltians.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
I know. I call it clairsmeltians. I think some people call it clairolfactants, but it is your ability to smell energy or to smell energetic patterns or to smell danger, right? You hear people in the military, oh, I can just smell the danger, and so they go a different route. Then you have the clairgustance, which is your ability to taste energy.
That's a weird one.
That is a weird one. It is a weird one. Every now and then I have that one, and it's always kind of strange. I've never tasted good things. It's always been like, ooh.
Right.
Yeah. And then you have your clairsentience, which is what a lot of people are very tuned into. And that's your ability to feel energy, to feel your own energies, but also to feel the energies of the vibrations of people around you. And so sometimes people call that your gut feeling or your ability to be empathetic and to feel what others are feeling. So this is what we're talking about today, are your 6 modes of intuitive sensing, which encompass all of those clairs.
I already have like 6 questions.
All right.
They're all from me.
Okay, perfect, because we didn't get any with our little things that we posted. Yeah.
We'll get more.
The first thing that I do want to say about the clairs is we have to acknowledge that they're all clairs, and clair has to do with clear.
Okay.
Is this tool working clearly and cleanly for you? Because if any of your clairs is mucked up in any way, it's going to give you some problems, and it's going to get you into situations or intuitive reads where you think you're feeling something with your clairsentience, or think you're thinking something with your claircognizance. And if it's not a clear message, I do find that a lot of intuitives find themselves in sticky situations.
Right. So that's why I brought this up the other day. Of like, I hear all the time, like, oh, I got a download, blah, blah, blah. I got this, download that. And sometimes when someone tells me something and it's like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I believe you that you downloaded that. I'm not sure where that came from. I don't know if that's in the best alignment for you. I mean, can you kind of speak to that of like, I got this download that I'm supposed to, run off and marry this guy that I met 10 minutes ago? Or like, when a download, like, how do you know good from real, not real? That's my biggest question. You're sensing something. How do you know that is like, oh yeah, that's what's happening, versus like, well, it's energy that's going through all these filters and muck and who knows?
Yeah. And I first want to attack the verbiage of real or not real. Okay. And that has to do with all of the societal programming and the levels of disbelief around spirit and energy and things on the other side that would have a good portion of the population believe or think that this stuff is not real. Okay. It's not real. And the problem is that it's all real. It's all real. But the problem is that when these clairs are mucked up in some way and a person acts on one of their clairs inappropriately because it's not clear, that is where the doubt sets in. And then even people who are working on their intuition, then they start to think, oh, maybe this stuff isn't real. Okay. Whereas really the correct verbiage, I believe, is it's not working, or you're having some user errors. Ouch. Yeah. I like that better. It's more user error is what we have going on. And we have a lot of people misusing their clairs and then being guided by a download and then having that take their life in a direction where all of a sudden they're in a lot of strife or a lot of struggle. And then they go, well, this didn't work, so it must not be real. So let's just take that word away. It's all real. It's all really, really, really happening. Okay. It's just a lot of society doesn't validate energy and the other side and spirit and these levels of what they might call phenomenon, but what I call just everyday happenings, right? So it is real. Again, it has more to do with user error. So what we do here at Boulder Psychic Institute is we focus on clairvoyance as the primary clair that we're going to develop. And the reason why is because when you can start to see energy and you can start to see it with clarity, which we combine our clairvoyant development with also healing development, because you have to have both together. Okay, so in order to heal your clairvoyance, you have to learn some healing techniques to clear this level out. So you want to kind of think of like your third eye as like a window. Most people's windows are dirty and you can't see, most people you can't even see out of it. They've got a fall. Right? Okay. And so we take a beginner student and we teach them how to start to clean off that window. Here's some Windex. Here's some what I call cosmic cleaner and a cosmic sponge. And we start to clean that off. And yes, we focus on healing all of the aspects of the human existence. But one of the main byproducts products is that this window starts to get cleaned off. It starts to get healed. And so as that starts to open up and a student's able to use their third eye because maybe they, clean off a little patch and they're able to see some energy and they're like, hey, cool, I saw an aura. Oh my goodness, I saw a cloud around a person. Or, oh my goodness, I read a past life and my partner next to me who was doing the reading saw the same thing. I must be psychic. And, so that starts to open up and get bigger and bigger. And the beauty of clairvoyance is it enables you to be able to see if what you are tuning into via your other clairs is information that aligns with your truth or information that does not align with your truth. So a common thing that I watch a lot of empaths experience with their clairsentience is they are always having that clairsentient radar focused outward. All right. And so they don't really realize that that's what's happening. And they walk into a room and all of a sudden they feel, oh my goodness, the vibration in here is ucky.
Yeah, sketchy vibe.
It's a sketchy vibe, right? And because they have not learned how to develop their clairvoyance, they can't see if that sketchy vibe is them tuning into the room or them tuning into an individual in that room or them tuning into themselves, right? Because your clairsentience is not just your ability to tune in to those around you or your environment around you, but it's also your ability to tune into yourself. And most people can't distinguish that difference. So they don't know, is what I'm feeling right now my feeling or somebody else's? And generally empaths always assume it's somebody else's because I'm an empath, right? I'm an empath. I feel everybody's feelings. And so hence I feel out of control because I'm feeling everybody's feelings. Where from time to time, that might be their own gut feeling, their own feeling like, oh, maybe I ate something weird today. Maybe I should just examine what I had for breakfast instead of assuming, oh, Three's mad at me. Three hates me, right? I feel negative vibes from you, Three. You must be mad at me. And you're like, what? I just walked in. I just walked into the room. I'm eating a taco with you. Like, really? You think I hate you? You know? And so this is why we teach clairvoyance first and foremost here at Boulder Psychic Institute, is so that we can help a student start to see and heal themselves, and then they can start to master their other clairs by just looking, is this Three's feeling right now or is this my feeling right now? Oh, it's my feeling right now. Oh, I'm not going to get myself into a pickle with Three right now by assuming that she's mad at me and getting into some weird confrontation with her. I'm going to just check in with myself again. Like I said, maybe I ate something funny this morning. Or like what you were talking about earlier when people say, oh, I just got this download and I need to go marry this person tomorrow.
Or my job, move, like big, huge, drastic things.
Yes. Right.
The spirit is telling me, and then they're telling you this, and you're like, none of this feels like a good idea to me.
Nice clairsentience, very good.
I can feel it on my skin.
Yeah, right. And then, so if you will, what happens with that level of claircognizance where people get a download is they, without developing their clairvoyance, who knows where they got that download from? It could have been God or the Supreme Being or Source. It could have been Uncle Bob who died last year. It could have been your higher self. It could have come from an angel. It could have come from an alien. It could have come from who knows where. But just because you got a download off the top of your head or a read through your claircognizance, right, and you tuned into some energy, then you have to get distinguished. Is this whose message is this, and is this really some information that I should follow? Is this in alignment? Is this an affinity with me? Oh, Uncle Bob's telling me I should go off and get married to that person. Yeah, Uncle Bob you know, you kind of didn't really do life very well. You died at 50 of a heart attack. You had 3 marriages. Maybe I shouldn't take marriage advice from you. Does that make sense? But if you can develop your clairvoyance and see, oh, this is a message from the Supreme Being, or oh, this is actually information coming from what some might call my higher self, or my upper chakras, or my creative rings. Oh yeah, this would validate me. I am going to go get married, right? And that way, whether you get divorced or not, or that person cheats on you or not, like, it's still part of your path and part of your growth step.
Okay. We have a question from Ellie here. Any ideas of how some people keep their clairs? Folks who don't have to do as much work clearing stuff out. I may need some clarification on that question. Let's see if I can use my clairs to
No, I know what she's talking about.
Like, how do you
and so what Ellie is asking is, why do some people keep their clairs and maintain them and then others don't? And it really has to do with the childhood that you manifest, that you are born into. And do you have an environment that fosters your clairs, or are you born into an environment that shuts those down, right? So a lot of young children, and rightfully so, you know, we don't live in a society where being super intuitive is valuable or even validated, right? And so a young child, they're all born with these clairs like totally wide open and totally accessible, but they quickly get conditioned by their parents and their caretakers to tune that down. Because, to be honest, you know, a lot of little kids put their parents in fear. Because they're so powerful, right? You look at our education system, and when do most kids start school? Lately it's earlier and earlier, but it used to be like 5 or 6 years old. Now it's like 2 or 3. Some kids just go straight off to daycare. But pretty much every education system in civilized cultures, they send their kids off between 3 and 6, and that's right about when the parents start to fear their kids. I'm afraid if you say it, right? Go be with some trained professionals.
Here comes a train.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what Ellie's talking about are children who do they live in an environment where that's fostered? For me, I grew up half in Japan and here in the US. And when I was in Japan, my aunt and my grandma just loved it when I would talk to entities and ancestors, and you know, it would be all eyes on me. Well, what are they saying? And I was like, oh, I'm finally getting attention.
Yeah.
Somebody's listening to me. Okay, cool. I'll use this skill. Whereas when I would come home with my parents who weren't as interested in what the ancestors talked about, there wasn't a useful skill. Oh, hey, Mom, you know, so-and-so says we should do this right now. And she's just like, whatever, you know. So then sooner or later I stopped using it when I was here in the US. And then the minute I'd get off the plane and my parents would leave me with my aunt, my grandma, boom, it would all open back up. But a lot of children, through years and years and years of that getting shut down, then what has to happen is you have to come to psychic school later in life, and you have to learn some healing tools to heal yourself to open that back up. And if you will, although we do focus on the clairvoyance, just by healing yourself in general, I've observed over the past 20 years that students will start to open up their other clairs as they heal themselves more and more. As a matter of fact, we're doing a class on telepathy, which it has a lot to do with your clairaudience, and we'll give a few ideas on how to clear your telepathy channel so that you can hear voices.
Yeah. Do you think that there's anything that like the way we live is not helping us? Like, is this too simplistic to think we live with so much technology that we've become kind of lazy with our clairs? Like, we don't really need them. We don't need to think about our survival quite as like we used to, or we're disconnected from the earth, disconnected from our body. Like, I have the story in my mind that if I went off and lived in a in the woods or something alone. Let's assume I could do that. And would all of my clairs like get like up leveled like 1,000,000%, or am I being romanticizing that kind of life? Like, oh, back when we were foragers, we had it all figured out, that kind of thing. But you know what I mean? Like how much is the technology and our information overload blowing out these clairs? Is that, or can we turn, you know, that I'm curious of how we can like, are we doomed? Can we do things to correct that? You know, that like, can we get back to this even though we live in this modern world with our phones and crowded schedules?
Yeah. The main point with regards to developing any of your clairs and developing your intuition is the root word for intuition is entouree. The Greeks had it right. You go within. It's all about tuning inwards. What is going on within? Can I heal myself? Can I hear myself? Can I know what I'm thinking? Can I tune into myself? And what you're speaking to is that with all of the information overload and just the attachment to, oh, you know, what's going on outside of me, that we have a general collective of people who are very much not focused inwards, they're focused outwards. They have out tuition.
Yeah.
Right? And what's happening out there is very noisy. And so if all they're tuning into is what's out there, then they will have a very noisy experience. And this is where we have, you know, people saying, if you want to sleep better at night, you got to get off your phone before bed. Well, what are they basically saying there? Well, you have to stop focusing outwards because it's so loud out there in social media, phone, internet land, that if you don't know how to heal yourself, which is what we teach here at BPI, then yeah, you need to get off your phone or off of technology for a few hours before bed so that maybe you can start to tune inwards. At a minimum, you just are less invaded by what's happening on the outside. So yes, we do have an outside focused addiction problem, but I don't see that that's necessarily anything new. We've always been conditioned to put our attention outwards or onto another person. Pay attention.
Yeah.
Right here, you know, in the military, attention, right? It's give me your attention. And so it's a story as old of time, you know, especially in modern cultures, civilized ones, to give your attention and to focus outwards. And so this is where we have empaths, you know, do you like me? Do you like my vibe? Am I okay? You know, and they're always, you know, out there focused, you know. Do I look okay? Am I all right? You know, and it's more here versus like, I'm fine. Yeah, I have a booger in my nose. So what? You know? Right? And so it has more to do with our social conditioning, which I don't think is anything new, but it's definitely become a worse habit or addiction with phones, which is this outward focus. I'm always like, what's going on out here? Okay. Instead of tuning in here, which is really, you know, what we do in our very first meditation class. Close your eyes, go within, learn how to listen to your body. And that's the first step towards developing any of those clairs.
Ellie also asked, what can you do? What can parents do to foster the clairs in their kids besides not sending them to school?
Yeah.
I refuse that answer.
Well, the parent's job is to teach their child how to succeed socially. And part of learning how to succeed socially is learning how to not necessarily be a full-blown intuitive and talking about aliens or ghosts or their imaginary friends all the time, because the rest of the society would deem them to be crazy or needing to be on meds or something like that, right? So please know that I don't advocate for raising like psychic kids that hence don't know how to function in society. Like, I just think that that's an unfair setup. That's not very kind to your child, because someday you're going to die and they're going to have to get a job and they're going to have to learn how to feed themselves, and, or at a minimum, get married and try to have a sugar mama or daddy, you know, right? So it is the parents' job to teach their child how to function in the society that they are going to live in, right? Whether that's an indigenous one or our modern civilized one. So part of that does give, hopefully should give you a little bit of comfort around sending your kids to school, because that is what socializes them.
My kids are going to school.
I just find that it's interesting that parents have to kind of shoo them away at a certain age, because they're so powerful and their bodies get bigger, and it's just, it becomes too much, right? I did a little Instagram reel on it, but it really has to do with curiosity and just being curious with your children. What do you see? What are you tuning into? You know, what are you talking to right now over there in the corner? You know, oh, I'm talking to my little, you know, this little guy over here named Joey. Oh, okay. What's he saying? You know,
yeah.
Do you like him? Is he cool? You know, and asking them questions and getting more curious instead of putting fear into them. I remember with my son, when I first took him to preschool, for the first 3 days, he cried every day. Well, the first day he was fine. I took him. He was okay. And then the next 2 days, the nanny took him. And she said, you know, he's been crying uncontrollably every day at drop off. You know, I'm not sure what's going on. I said, well, let me take him. So I take him, and we're walking up. He's fine. We're both in our bubbles. We're both in our space. And all of a sudden, 3 other kids nearby start crying. And then Orion totally loses his bubble. And their tears flood in, and he starts crying. And I pulled him. We walked a little bit further away, and I said, hey, Orion, you forgot your bubble. You got to keep your bubble around you, and you give those other kids, they can cry all they want, but you stay in your bubble at school, and you can have any feeling that you want, right? And so there was a little bit of training there so that he could have his own space and not be so empathetic to where he couldn't function well at school. And then he immediately stopped crying. He hasn't cried since.
Hey, that's
right. Done. But that's, you know, so sometimes you can talk to them about some of this stuff, but generally I would say staying as curious as possible. You know, and then you do have to socialize them. That was when Orion was 3, but this last school year at around 4.5, he started to really develop some friendships with some energy friends, is what we call them, but entities. And there was one called Mr. Nobody that would, you know, cause a lot of trouble. And I was like, you know, whenever Mr. Nobody and you are hanging out, do you notice you're always having to do bedroom time, or
we have a good old
you know,
time together.
Get hurt, or you hurt someone, right? And so we would have conversations about that, and talking about how it's important to choose your physical friends and your energy friends. But then he started to do this thing at school where he would, instead of playing with his physical friends, he would play with Mr. Nobody at recess. And the teacher called concerned after a week, you know, Ryan's kind of like off in the corner talking to somebody, or sometimes he'll sit on the bench, or he'll run around talking, and, you know, basically having a one-sided conversation. And I could see her social concerns come up about our child maybe being a little off, and, you know, just recognizing, oh, this is not necessarily a great social tactic for my son. We had to have a conversation about, you know, your energy friends, you have to leave them at home. Mr. Nobody has to stay at home. And if you can't keep them at home, mom's going to keep them at home for you. But, you know, at school, there's other people out there who don't know how to use their energy eyes, and talking about things that you experience with your energy eyes is going to get you in some trouble. So, you know, Mr. Nobody has to stay at home. And so that ended, and he talks to Mr. Nobody at home. But you know, he doesn't do that at school. And so that's me as an aware parent going, you know, this is fun. It's great. My kid's pretty psychic, but, you know, that's going to cause him problems out there socially. Right? So you have to have a balance. There's a lot of these neo-spiritual parents, especially here in Boulder, are like, my child is an old soul and so wise, I'm going to let them lead the show. And I'm like, no, that's not a good idea because they're 3.
Right.
And they might be an old soul, but they have 3 years of life experience.
Yeah.
You know, they have to gain some life experience. And my son had to gain some life experience and learn, oh, this is just not stuff that you talk about in public or to normal people.
Okay. I mean, I also remember when I used to answer the phone for the BPI, which is wild. That's a wild right there. You know, I'm like in the middle of like stuff, and I can always tell I'd pick it up, and someone would like barely even say hello and just be like, "How do I turn it off?" I'm like, "Hello, Boulder Psychic Institute," and you know, they're like, "I don't want it. Make it go away." I don't want to, like, so I talked to someone, she could smell through the phone, like she'd be talking to someone who could smell what's going on in their world. So her sister was changing a diaper and she's like, sick. And, you know, she's like, I can smell the food they're eating. And she's like, so how do I shut that off? You know, or someone who just was having really unpleasant premonitions, knowing when people are going to die. You know, and really being like, I don't want to be burdened by this. It's a bummer. It's too much. What do you say to that's, I mean, and the other question is, why do some people have these skills at level 1,000% and some of us are like at 4%? Like, how does that happen? But that's 2 questions right there for you.
Well, the first answer with regards to turning it off is you turn off any ability that you have in the same way that you can turn it on, which is ownership, owning your abilities, owning all of your abilities that you have, all of the clairs, even owning your brain, owning your mind, right? And you own all of your abilities through these healing techniques that we teach. And the more that you heal all of the energy that keeps you from owning your abilities, you'll either through that ownership be able to turn it up from 4 to 100% or down from 100% to 0. It's only through that ownership. And what I mean by that is other people aren't coming in and forcing that woman to smell diaper poop through the phone, right? Or other energies aren't coming in and kind of waking you up and talking to you in the middle of the night. If you can't own your abilities and kind of own who you are and own your space and say, yeah, no, not right now. Oh yeah, cool, right now, right? Then all of those abilities are going to get out of control. And it doesn't have to be a clair. It could be your brain. How many people can't turn off their brains, right? Mm. How many people are taking sleep medications just so that they can turn off their brains to sleep, right? They're not owning their brains, right? You have to own your brain, and when you own it, then you'll use your brain when you need to, and then you'll shut it off when you don't, right? Imagine that, like just off.
Right.
I remember I dated this genius for a long time, and his brain would just be so loud. In the morning, I'd be like, do you ever just turn that off? He's like, no, mine goes all the time. What's happening to yours? I'm like, nothing. He was like, I would pay all the money in the world to have that. And I was like, it's really easy. You just learn how to heal yourself. So any of your clairs, you have to learn how to heal yourself.
Okay. Do you think that these skills can sometimes ebb and flow? Like I had a super busy summer where I was mostly focused on family, and I'm back now as of yesterday. The kids went to school, and I feel fuzzy. I feel a little like, ooh, I feel a little fuzzy. I feel I'm not at 100. It's clear wise.
Well, and basically what you're saying is I'm not clear. I'm a little dirty. I'm a little mucked up. And I just need to do a good clean out. I need to give myself a good healing, and it might take a week or 2, and then I'll kind of be back to my normal level of clearness. And then you can start to chip away at even more clearness. We
have another question. Yeah. So this person is that why my 3-year-old granddaughter puts food to her chin or gets close to it before she decides if she will eat it? Like it's physically close to the food. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, at least it looks like with your granddaughter, in her last past life, she had food poisoning and died. And so this is her way of being very cautious with food to see if that food is going to be poisonous or dangerous for her. Might have a finicky eater. Mm-hmm. Sometimes these past lives follow us.
Yes. Okay. I have another thought. How can you, someone who's new, who's maybe not taking a class at the BPI, what's the first thing they could do to start working on the clairs? Would they work on all of them, one of them? What would be step one for someone who's like, I'm going to be clair all of it? I want to be clair all of it.
I'm going to be clair all of it. I mean, and not to sound like I'm plugging the school, but I have observed over the last 20 years that just by healing yourself and applying these skills and developing that clairvoyance, the byproduct is that a lot of the other clairs open up. So the first step is, can you slow yourself down and go within and start to tune within and hear your body, hear your thoughts, hear your feelings, like what's going on in here. Really my job in the first 2 years of the training here at Boulder Psychic Institute is take a student who's so programmed, everything's out here, I'm so focused out here, what's going on with you, do you like me, I'm tuning into, everything outside of myself to the point where there's no self-responsibility, right? It's your fault that I'm this way. It's my parents' fault. It's God's fault. Everybody's doing it to me. It's somebody gave me the wrong life path, or, it's always out here, right? And my job is to kind of like put the guns away, and focus within and what's going on within you. How are you creating this? What's your vibe? And the more that I can get a student into their bodies, listening to their bodies, tuning in, the more that those clairs are going to just naturally start to open up. Right? In other words, the reason why you're feeling a little bit mucked up is because you've had a summer that's made it a little bit difficult for you to be in your body as much as normal, and so you're finding your way back in. The tuning in. So again, intuition, entourage, to go within. It's not out tuition, it's intuition.
What I think, did you answer this, or why are some people super gifted right out of the gate? And why are some people not?
It has to do with why are some people so gifted at basketball? Why did, Michael Jordan, why is he so elegant and graceful on the basketball court, and why is Tiger Woods amazing at golf? Like what I was saying to that previous grandmother, our past lives do follow us. We are the sum total of all of our lifetimes, and some people come in with more experience from previous lifetimes. Like Michael Jordan, he was into balls and sports, right? And so in this lifetime he was like, yeah, I want to really see if I can glide in that sport. I'm going to manifest this really tall, amazingly athletic body with my past life experience, maneuvering balls. That sounds really bad, but you know what I mean. It wasn't just basketball. He played other sports, but, maneuvering, and then boom, and he just came in with that level of grace. Like, oh, I can do that. And then you have other basketball players who have to train and really practice hard and work really hard, and they're only half as good at Michael Jordan, right? And a lot of that has to do with their past life experience. So for me, most of my past lives over the last 10, 15 past lives have been all about energy and spirit and the other side, and whereas intimate relationships, I like 10-foot pole. Like, I don't know, like my last lifetime I had kids just because I had to as perfunctory, and I never really talked to my wife or children, you know? So it's just, right? And so I'm not necessarily as gifted with intimate relationships like you are, Three. Right? 'Cause that just hasn't been my forte. But with regards to energy work and spiritual stuff, that's come in with me into this lifetime. So
Okay.
it does have to do with the combination of, you know, your childhood. But I also manifested the childhood that I did because I was setting myself up for this lifetime.
Sweet.
So, yeah.
Okay, I love this question. What happens to one's intuition / clairs when people take things like mushrooms and ayahuasca? We did a whole thing about drugs and alcohol and how it affects you, but right. I mean, I've dabbled with psychedelics and had some super cool experiences, and I've also had it be like where I'm like, so I don't know. Is that good, bad? Weigh in on the old mushroom psychedelic. Ayahuasca too. That's another one.
Well, any of those psychedelics, what they're doing is they are helping you to access a different part of the brain that one normally doesn't have access to, or has been programmed or conditioned out of having access to during their sober moments. And I'm sure you've heard, just like everyone else who's listening to this, that we really only use like 10% of our brains.
Yeah.
What those psychedelics do is they help open up the parts of our brain that we don't normally use, so that all of a sudden it's like, whoa, you know, I'm seeing things that I normally don't see, or I'm feeling things that I normally don't feel.
15.
And so the psychedelics are really just a crutch to get you to exactly where you can get to without drugs, by simply healing yourself and clearing your energy and being more in tune with your body. So it's very possible to have an extremely trippy kind of visual experience sober, but you have to clean out your brain and your body systems enough to be able to access that part, right? And so I do see that a lot of people who use ayahuasca, especially in the ceremony format, and they say, oh my goodness, like after I did all the vomiting and diarrheaing, you know, and after the 10th time, it was so cool. It was like I could just, you know, like imagine something and then just, you know, create something else. And just like, it was like, you know, like I could just, you know, have the visual world like totally available. And I was like so psychic. And then they come to me and say, you know, why can't I have that? And then that crutch becomes an addiction, or like the only way that I can get there, right? If you use these psychedelics as like, oh, this is totally possible, cool, you know, and you leave the dependency behind, oh, this is possible, thank you, psychedelic, that was fun. I'm going to try to get there on my own. That's where then one can develop a healthy relationship with those substances, in order to have like literally like a third eye opening experience, like, oh, right, this is possible. But what I do experience with a lot of those practicing in the ayahuasca circles and stuff, at least those who come to me, they have a dependency to it, and so they start to program themselves that this is the only way there. And the problem with that is you can't take your ayahuasca with you when you die. You can't take your acid with you when you die. You know, like
your little drug box you've got. You can't take.
Yeah, you can't take that with you. Just like you can't take your brain. There's a lot of things, your body, you can't take with you when you die. So it's ideal to learn how to access all of these abilities without a crutch. Just like you can't take your tarot cards with you when you die, or you can't take your crystal ball with you when you die. So develop your third eye so that no matter where you go in the world, or on the astral plane on the other side, you can take it all with you when you die.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, I was thinking too, we're very medicated right now. And I'm not saying that's bad if you take antidepressants or Adderall or ADHD stuff or anything, But I am curious. I am for myself. I'm curious sometimes. Does that affect my clairs? Anything, alcohol, Tylenol, ibuprofen, Adderall, all of it. You know, does what we put in our body, or even junk food, sugar, too much meat, not enough meat, does that affect? Does what we put in our body affect our clairs?
Well, ideally, if you apply these spiritual tools, at least what I'm teaching here at Boulder Psychic Institute, long enough, you start to recognize that you, the spiritual part of you, is so much more than the body. And so I could have a fever and a cold and I could still do an amazing psychic reading because I'm so much more than the body, right? And so that's ideally where one gets to as they start to clean off and heal themselves is, wow, I'm so much more than this human form, and all of these clairs, all of my spiritual capabilities are at my fingertips, whether I'm run down with a cold or I ate too much sugar or, you know, I'm vomiting from food poisoning, right? And then, like what I was saying earlier, then you're able to take all of these abilities with you to the other side, and then they translate into the next lifetime, and then you become that person who's just more psychic as a kid, and you know, you have that next lifetime. Before you get to that point, yes, I have observed that if you aren't taking good care of your body, that those intuitive levels will decrease. So you know, if you drink too much alcohol, you'll lose touch with the body. You won't be as tuned in. As a matter of fact, when you drink too much alcohol, you tend to leave your body, right? Sometimes something else comes in and then you don't remember what you did the next day, right? But if you will, when you're out of your body and you don't recognize and you don't have consciousness as a soul apart from your body, then yes, those clairs will deteriorate when your body's not feeling well.
That checks out.
And you know, and really it's this game of like, I take a new student who's not very tuned into their body, they're overriding their body, their attention is outward, their focus is everyone's doing it to me, it's everyone else's fault. Bring them within, have them start to listen and tune into their bodies. It doesn't mean that what they hear they're gonna like. So their body's probably like, you know, you've been treating me poorly all these years. And then I have a student who's like, why do I have migraines all the time? I'm trying to be my head. Well, you haven't been in there and there's all that stuff in there. So yeah, now that you're coming in, you're feeling all the pain, right? Yeah. And then you have to clean all that out to learn how to get into your body more, tune into it, so that you can start to use these clairs that are kind of attached to our senses, right? Mm-hmm. As a template, so that when you do leave your body, you'll leave with more consciousness and you'll leave with those clairs, those spiritual abilities, and then you'll get to that place where you don't necessarily need your body to have them.
Okay.
But I've observed that it's this kind of like path, you know. You gotta descend before you ascend.
Yeah. What clair does the pineal influence?
The pineal gland influences the clairvoyance. Yes. So that pineal gland sits right, you know, where the third eye sits. And that pineal gland and the third eye are very much related. But I wouldn't get too stuck on that the pineal gland has to be perfect, or, you know, everybody's talking about like my pineal gland is calcified from fluoride, or so hence I can, you know, I'm screwed because I had fluoride as a kid. I wouldn't get too stuck on that because, again, you're so much more than your body. But that pineal gland, especially when a person's vibrating it at a nice grass green color, it tends to open up that third eye more when they're in that dissension part of the path that I was just talking about. Does that make sense?
Their body.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you think we need all these clairs? do I need clair tastiness? Do I need clair scent smelling? You know, like, I don't know if I want to be like ever since I've come home from being gone, and like I said, I was just a little bit spun out this summer. I've had like a weird smell behind a smell, and then I realized, wait, it's following me everywhere I go, and I just kind of want to clear it out and be like, I don't know what that is, but I don't want it. Like, do we need all these clairs, or does that serve us? You know, should we be striving for all of them, or just striving to like work on clairvoyance first?
I mean, you've obviously gotten through how many years of life without them being perfect. You know, I don't know if we need them. They are a part of our system, and they are available to use if one chooses to use them. But at least in our current structure of society and the way the world is working, you don't necessarily need them. I do find that some of them are kind of fun to have, right? So my ability to hear other people's thoughts, or to hear an entity that might be talking to me, that's kind of a fun skill, right? When I see a person out there on the street having one of those one-sided conversations like my son was on the playground, right? I can actually hear the other side. I'm like, yes. Continue to yell expletives at that being, because they are buzzing your tower and they are messing with you. Do you want me to like move them out of your space for you? You know, and those dialogues can happen, and I find those quite amusing, right? But it's not necessarily that my life is amazingly better because I can hear the other side of those one-sided conversations, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I want it, but I do kind of think some of them are like, is this a good thing, or would it be distracting? You know?
Like with that clear smell, like I can always smell when somebody has an entity in their space that's not working for them, that is actually harming the body more than helping the body, and they'll come around and I'll it used to be so bad where I'd like carry essential oils and I just kind of at the institute put it on my nose, because there were all sorts of students and people coming in and out all the time where I just like, you know. But just like what I was saying previously, if you can learn how to own that, and as I've been owning that more and more, I can turn it off when I'm in the middle of a session or with somebody who's psychically not smelling well, and I can turn that down and just be like, yeah, you got a being in your space. You know?
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, well, do we have any announcements? Let's wrap up because we've only got a few more minutes. And that was cool. I think, I mean, it's very interesting to think about all the different clairs, you know. I'm in.
Yeah. I mean, and really not, I mean, I feel like all of today was a plug for the school, but, you know,
Cool here.
I mean, that's what I've observed over the last 20 years of running the school is you learn how to heal yourself. You develop the clairvoyance so you can see who the message is coming from, you know, where is it coming from? Is it a piece of information I want to use? If not, bye. If so, amazing. And that oftentimes helps a person be more aligned with their path, and their life tends to be more validating than invalidating, right? And then through that process all of healing yourself, those clairs do start to open up. I remember one day when I was walking down the stairs, I would always hear this voice. It was in my early 20s of like, you're going to fall and break a leg. And every time I walk down the stairs, I'd hear that. And I thought it was my thought, like, oh, so I guess I better be careful going down these stairs. And I would just go really slow down this one set of stairs all the time. And then after a few years of that, like one day all of a sudden I walked down the stairs, and I'd been doing this healing practice for myself. I walked down the stairs. I was like, oh, that's not my voice. That's somebody else's voice. Oh, let me take a look. Oh, okay. You used to live here and you used to fall down the stairs all the time.
Okay.
Cool. Well, you can just go to your house now. And then boom, that was gone.
Yay. Yeah.
So sorry for the sidebar. Yes, we have some announcements next Friday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. We are teaching an intro to telepathy course. It is an intro class. It's an hour.
It's going to be silent? It's going to be 100% telepathic. I'm kidding. It's not going to be silent. You just
on this call. I actually have a friend who is extremely telepathic, and oftentimes we'll go out for a meal, and that's what it's like.
I love it. And
then you'll just, like, if you were watching from the side, you'd be like, why are they giggling and laughing, but they haven't said a word in like the last 20 minutes?
Like,
so
yep.
Yes, and that is free to anyone who wants to join. It is on Zoom, so make sure your Zoom is updated and you're ready to be on camera. But it is an intro class, so don't expect, like all of a sudden my telepathy works, in 1 hour. I always say to my students, they didn't build Rome in a day. You don't get to Carnegie Hall after practicing the violin for 1 month. It is a lifetime practice, but we will give you some fun tools for opening it up and practicing, and some tools for healing it in that 1 hour. We'll get you started. It's an intro class. And then Self-Healing 101 starts at the beginning of September. So if you want to learn how to start to go within and access your intuition, check out our website. That class starts, I think it's September 7th. So,
yay.
Yeah.
This was cool. I'm going to work on cleaning my window. Right. Yes. Yeah.
Wait, there's a smudge there. Let me just get that.
Yeah. I'm going to sub out the word Claire for clear from now on and see if anyone notices.
Well, it is, right? Everybody's like, my clairvoyance, ooh. But it's also your ability to see the world around you with clarity, right? Can I see this event that's happening in front of me with clarity? Or am I going to judge it? Or am I make it bigger or smaller than what it is, right?
Yes.
Can I see what's being shown to me on the news with clarity? What's true, what's not true? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to take your anxiety like this.
Yeah. Can I feel what you're feeling with clarity and know with clarity that it's yours, not mine? Can I feel when my body is having a tummy ache with clarity and be able to act on that?
Yeah. Yes. Okay, everybody. Well, I think we're going to say goodbye. This was great.
I just realized I didn't ruin anything today.
I know. You didn't ruin true love or soulmates or this was generally I can do this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing I ruined was it's going to take some time.
Yep, practice.
This is
practice. Yeah, but I think that's good to know, because then you don't invalidate yourself if you don't get it right away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Cheers to clarity. That's correct. All right, you guys. Thank you. We will see you next month. Don't forget about our pop-up class, and Self-Healing 101 starts September 5th. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Three.
Thank you.